All right. What's going on, Macro Perspective peeps? Seamus and Marcos here with a really great friend, one of the best, Ryan Gahavry. Three boys chatting it up. Marcos, you're gonna find a cool story here with Ryan before I introduce him officially for what we're gonna do for the podcast. Um, Ryan and I met, I think, about 10 years ago. Actually, like 10 years ago, probably to this day. In a club called Three Winds Fitness. Before it was 100 citizens before it was Three Winds Fitness, which is like a kinesiology club in college, which was like our first or 2 years there. We met at midnight at a party. Like I can remember this because we met at midnight. We're both we're both probably a few shots deep. And this guy, we're talking. He's like, "Yeah, dude, I did some martial arts." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I wrestled." And he's like, "Bro, there's a carpet right here. You want to go?" And I was like,
I
"Sure,
remember
why
this.
not? Sure, why not?" And then we go, and then I'm like realizing, dude, we're just two dudes in the middle of the night at this party with these kinesiology guys just fucking grappling. And all this. That's how Ryan and I met, guys, as you can tell, and a brotherhood has been bonded since. But Ryan is more than just some random guy at a party and random guy at college. He's one of my best friends, and today we wanted to talk about something that's actually super important. I think Marcos and I can agree on, which is the financial health, which is a big facet of just health overall. Um, Ryan actually helps me a lot with finances. I think it's like an important thing. I get a lot of coaching from him. I get a lot of insights on habits, routines, and just kind of like what to look at in trends in terms of, you know, uh, just basic financial health, nothing crazy, nothing insane like hedge fund guys or anything like that. But Ryan, thanks for being here. Why don't you do a little elevator pitch intro for the audience, and we'll let Marcos and you kind of like as well.
All right. Well, first off, Seamus, Marcos, thanks for having me here, you guys. And to kind of allude to Seamus's story, it was about 12 o'clock, and you actually cracked my neck that night, too. So it felt really good. We were grappling, and I heard a little neck crack, so it felt great. But hey, look, pretty much all jokes aside, I'm Ryan Gahavry, been in, finance going on a little over 2.5 years, going into my third year. Really what I do in my practice, when people hear, okay, what's a holistic financial planner or holistic financial professional, really what I do is I focus on building a relationship, not really getting to the transaction of things. It's like really understanding my clients' why. Like, why are you sitting down with me? What interests you? I get that you're into investing and stuff, but why are you into investing? What are you choosing to accomplish? So that's really how I like to run my practice. I have had transactional clients before. It's not my favorite way of working. You will have those clients who are very just straightforward and direct, and that's fine. But that's kind of what I hone my practice on, is really just building those relationships and just serving my clients and making it a fun experience. Because again, people are coming with me with a couple $100,000, a few $1 million. They want to make sure that I'm at least a halfway decent human being. So
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
yeah.
How'd you get into it? What led you down this path?
So it was, I want to say December of 2021 or November of 2021. I was in my master's program up north at University of San Francisco. I was getting my master's in sport management, and I'm a big sports guy. I enjoy watching sports. I'm a fan. But as I was slowly graduating, I was like, look, I don't want to be a sports agent chasing around athletes 24/7, being their babysitter. I don't want to work for a sports team and kind of be on their dime, like, hey, you got to travel, do this, do that. You don't really have that time freedom. But I'm like, okay, well, what are you interested in? Went online, started looking for gigs. Then I say, oh, okay, financial planner, financial advisor. I applied, went through like a 2-month interview process, and pretty much that's how I got my foot in through the door. And Marcos, to be honest with you, and also to Seamus, really during this time, if we really kind of backtrack to about 2020, when COVID happened, the biggest thing people say is, oh, I'm set. I'm all good. I got a 401k. I got this. I got that. Like, we don't need your help. But those are the same people where, hey, when there are those economic downturns, those are the ones who, again, they start to struggle because they have all their eggs in one basket. So I kind of saw a problem during COVID where like people don't really know how these financial vehicles work. So as I was getting ready to graduate, I'm like, look, I love sports. I just don't want to make it my whole life. I also enjoy finance. It's changed my life. How can it change other people's lives? And what can I do to make a positive impact? So that's what really kind of drove me to get into the field. And I started in February of 2022, and I haven't looked back ever since. I've just been growing since then. So it's been fun.
You hiring?
You know what? We are. Absolutely.
Marcos is good, man. He's very, client centered and very much, supports and all that. Can I say one thing though, before Marcos? Ryan, I gotta commend you, man. You've been, like I said, one of my best friends for the last 10 years. You've had my back in a lot of things, and um, I was so excited for you when you went up to San Francisco, man. I think 2020. I was so hyped for you, man. I was like, dude, you're in San Francisco. You're getting after it. You and Ariel. I can't believe you guys are gone. I'm gonna have to visit you. And then March hits, and I was like, oh shit, they're shutting
Yep.
San Francisco down. I had
Yep.
another buddy that like got out. He was like, oh yeah, they're gonna shut it down tonight, so I'm leaving. I was like, okay, because we didn't really know what was gonna happen. We thought it was a 2 week thing, right?
Yep.
Um, and then, dude, I remember calling you. I think we had like a weekly standing call at that time, even with with our other friend AJ. And I just remember our calls. Like, I just saw you just becoming more unhappy and more unhappy and and just like not trying to say anything there, but more like, okay, wow, I went here, I got my master's degree in this thing, and yeah, it really, I think that experience jaded you a little bit, just from my perspective. And then you're like, you know what truly is going to make a difference? And you spent, 10 years in, let's say, this field, and then you said, you know what, I'm going to make a jump and switch. And I got to commend you because at that time, man, a lot of folks were scared, and you decided I'm going to take a leap of faith. So honestly, again, I just want to commend you for that, man, and the fact that you did that, dude.
Nah, brother, thank you so much. And you know what, dude? Like, yeah, there was that fear of like we all have that fear of like, what if it doesn't work out? What are people gonna think about me? I'm making a change from fitness to finance. Like, what makes me good to give that kind of advice? Am I worthy enough? Like, these are all some pretty deep, dark thoughts that we have. But I think to be honest, it's the education outside of the workplace that I kind of hone myself in on as well. So I go to work, we have all these trainings, all this and all that, but even outside of there, I continue to educate myself. And that's how I really was able to build more of a holistic practice rather than just sales. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I'm in professional sales. I get it. We all need to make money. We all need to make a living, but what kind of value are you bringing to your clients? I think that's the biggest difference that I hone in on. But look, it was a leap of faith, but it was a great one because the time freedom I wanted and the growth that I wanted, it's really providing that for my lifestyle right now. But it was
Yeah.
definitely scary at first, and a lot of people supported me, such as you and AJ and other people in my corner. But then you have the people who are going to doubt you and just not support you and ghost you and this and that. So you get the best of both worlds, and you just kind of pretty much take what it is. So, but it's been good so far.
Everything's worth taking that plunge and that risk. I
Oh
think
yeah.
Seamus and I are even quasi at that realm at times right now, like approaching, I guess, mid-30s, right? You're 30, right, Seamus?
Yeah.
Seamus is 30. Marcos, how old are you? You're 35?
No, I'm 31. I'm just
31?
It's just
yeah,
a
Oh,
beard.
so
yeah. But I view everything as like a financial transaction. I know it's like a 5-year thing, so I'm looking at like my ROI with myself a lot, and I don't know, like I definitely feel like I missed my calling a bit when it came to applying applied mathematics, because that's what my degrees is, into something that actually would be like a numbers game. It's like, hey, it's in the numbers. Like, again, like if all else fails, like, if something goes down, it's just on sale. It's not that it's going to be down for forever if you just understand how to zoom out a little bit. And I mean, there's always so many parallels between health coaching and finances. I think we're
yep.
constantly making that comparison. I know I use that analogy a lot where I'm like, yeah, big picture here, right? Like you ask your people when you have that kind of intimate sit down, what are your goals with your health? What are your goals with your finances, right? Like one and
Yep.
the same. And you kind of have to kind of sit down and create a dedicated plan. And, we would call it periodization, right? For fitness, right? So we get those maybe 3-month blocks where this is the focus. And then I think finance is like, there's probably times where people are doing things a little bit differently, right? Or what does it really look like? What's a typical strategy? Or is it really that like, is there really like that many different ways to approach this game?
I mean, really, Marcos, to be honest, I think there's so many different routes that you can take. And I think that's what kind of scares people. Kind of like in fitness, sometimes they don't know where to start. And that's where working with a professional such as myself, or in the fitness space such as with you or with Seamus, really we're pretty much coaches. We basically coach it to simplicity. It's like, look, there's like a million ways to do bench press. You can do the incline, the decline, the dumbbell, the this and that. You can get all fancy, but what's really going to create the most results is what's going to work best for you. What's a simple way that we can start and we can progress? So it's the same thing with me. It's like, look, there's so many different financial solutions out there, but they're not for everybody. So what it comes down to is really, what's your age? What's your risk tolerance? Are you married? Are you single? Do you have kids? Do you not have kids? Is that something you want for yourself? What's your income, specifically after taxes? Because I always have this saying, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. Because on paper, you can make $200,000, but like, are you really making 200,000? Or if you're living in California, half of that goes bye-bye to Uncle Sam. And it's like, okay, you're left with like, I don't know, 130, which is still not bad, but go figure, that's 70,000 out of your pocket. That's just a very rough, bare bones example. So when I'm sitting down with my clients, it's like, we go through an in-depth kind of analysis of like, okay, well, based on your age and your risk and your income and what your goals are, this is the plan that we need to kind of stick to. But does it mean the plan is not flexible? No, because life has variable factors. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but we can plan for, economic downturns just in case, for lack of better words, shit hits the fan. I don't know when those things are going to happen, but it's about preparing for the worst. And I think that's where my clients are seeing their success is like, sometimes I'll talk to them and they'll be like, Ryan, why are you thinking so negatively? And I'm like, well, I need to think worst case scenario. That way, if the worst case does happen, you're not calling me pissed off. You're calling me saying, hey, thank you for setting it up this way. Yeah. But in a best case scenario, you're calling me, I don't know, once, twice a month and just thanking me. So,
Ryan, I'm gonna take that out of your book, man. Marcos, imagine health coaching your clients like this. Yeah, you're gonna gain some weight. Yeah, we're gonna eat a bunch of bad food. Yeah, we're not gonna make any progress. And like that's how it is. Or like, oh, you're gonna struggle. Oh, you're gonna hate this weightlifting thing. Dude, that'd be like such a great way to people like, okay, yeah. Like give them the bad rub first, and then they're like, oh, it's actually much better than what you said. Perfect.
Yeah, and you know what it is, kind of to add on, and sometimes, Marcos, like a lot of people, they're not happy with that answer I just gave. They're like, well, why aren't you just like recommending a certain stock or a Roth IRA or this and that? And it's like, we can talk about those things. I'm just not sure if it's appropriate for you. Like that's the difference where like when you talk to someone like me, I give you a real answer. Whereas if you talk to a buddy, you're like, oh yeah, like just go put 20,000 in crypto or go do this or go do that. And it's like, well, why should I do it? And their answer is because I did it. And it's like, okay, well, because someone does it, that doesn't give you any research or analytics or is the CEO invested in the company? How is their benchmark been doing? Are they even beating inflation? Like there's so many different factors than, hey, my buddy is doing this, therefore I'm going to go ahead and pretty much invest in this. So when I meet with my clients, I mean, dude, we're going into detail, but I'm also keeping it very simple. I'm not using big financial jargon. I'm doing it in a way where like, look, your son who's 4 years old can understand and you're 50 and you can also understand. Like, I'm not going to use any terms that are going to throw them off. That's definitely not something I do.
Yeah. I mean, you got to teach that way. You got to teach to like, I mean, and it's like, I got a little humbled when I actually did it to my son when he was 5 and tried to explain like nutrition to that level. And then it obviously like, again, you can use some bigger words when it comes to like adults, right? But you want to be at the level where a kid can understand it and then shows mastery of it. And yeah, I mean, okay, Ryan, I know my wife's not here at this moment, but maybe a way of She's
Oh
only
man.
in the other room. Maybe what we can do, because I think this is like, again, kind of interesting, is I guess like kind of audit what I've been doing, and it's very bare bones, right? And you can give it maybe like a rating 1 to 10 on what you think, in terms of, I guess, my strategy so far,
Okay.
as a younger 31-year-old, right? Because
Okay.
I don't know what I don't know, but I probably started investing realistically right around, I was at the old office. So it was probably end of 2019, like right into early 2020.
Okay.
Um, that's when I actually had finally paid off debt, because the person that I talked to initially was like, get rid of these little debts first. There was like
I like that.
it
I
was like
like that.
$5,000, right? It was nothing crazy. He's like, do that first, and then we'll talk about like getting your employee match contribution for your 401k.
Okay.
Cool. I finally did that like at the end of 2019. It was like, I'm like, okay, cool. Then I was like, how much? He's like, just 5%. I thought I could play catch up, and start, putting it in, but it like, I guess it breaks down based like per paycheck. So like I've actually been over contributing like 7% versus 5%, my matched amount, for
Okay.
probably, I mean, ever since we switched payroll systems, when I noticed that number was 7%, like I was like, whatever, I guess I don't need the money, so it's a little bit higher there. Right.
Right.
So there's 7% there, employee match 5%, right, from my company that I work for. Roth IRA as well, or is it Roth or is it traditional? I always forget which one's after taxes.
So the one that's after taxes, that's the Roth.
Roth. Okay, yeah. So Roth IRA for me and my wife, max those out the best we can. We think we've done it I've done it 3 times, and I think I've gotten her like 2.5. Right. So for my contributions and like hers, goals to max out the contribution there. This year, I also have 400 of my own dollars getting contributed over into my HSA account per month
Okay.
as well.
Okay.
So that's as much as I've done so far. I haven't actually reached the amount where I can actually start investing with the HSA, but like something I heard this last week was like, hey, cut down that 2% in the 401k, max out so that you get the full contribution in the HSA. And then that way you can start leveraging that as another investment vehicle, because all that money is getting pulled out and there is no tax on it. Right. It's like it's growing tax free effectively. Right.
Yeah, and that's also pretty much what your Roth area is doing as well, Marcos. I think the biggest thing is always knowing like what are the penalties with these accounts. So, I mean, so far
Mm.
it's a good game plan. You're 31. You've been with your employer for I think what 5 years now that you've been contributing. You paid off your debts and you've been doing your 401k for about 5 years.
Yeah. It's about, I think truly, yeah, I guess contributing going on like probably 4 total years. Yeah.
4 total years. So the way I'm seeing it is okay, you've been doing it for 4 total years. That match is basically free money. So your company is given 5%. If you put in 5%, it's free money. Anything over that is technically considered overfunding it. If you love the 401k, that's a tax deferred vehicle, aka tax later. So how your 401k works is you're not going to pay the taxes now. You're deferring your taxes when you retire after age 59 and a half. That's when you can take it out without any penalties. You still have to pay the taxes,
Yeah.
but there's usually a 10% penalty that you have to pay on the 401k if you take it out pre 59 and a half. So as long as you keep it in there, now there are some like hardship withdrawal, like things that you can look into. I'd say, sometimes if you're a first time home buyer or if you have like serious medical expenses, you can, pretty much take a loan against it without any penalties. But you
Mhm.
should definitely look into your 401k and see if it's applicable for that. The Roth IRA is again, that's going to be more of an individual retirement account. That's going to be tax free in the future. So the way
Yeah.
those work is the money that you've put in, you've already paid taxes on, they grow tax deferred, you take it out after 59 and a half tax free. So it's good to have both of them on the end because you never know just in case you leave your work or you're let
Yep.
go, you don't want to just have one thing kind of sitting there. So it's good that you did the IRA. I'm a big fan of Roth IRAs. I have one myself. We do them over at the firm that I work for as well. So Roths are great. The maximum on it right now is like $7,000 a year for an
Mhm.
individual account if you have a joint account. you can do up to 14,000, and it's also market based. So market based meaning, hey, there's a lot of upside, but you can also lose money depending on how you're invested. So
Yeah.
definitely speak with your advisor, Marcos. I would say meet with them at least 1 to 2 times a year. Make sure they're taking a look at your portfolio, making sure that you're diversified properly. So you're in equities, a little bit in bonds, and just right now you're able to take a good amount of risk because you have a good amount of your working years ahead of you. So I would say be more aggressive. But then as you get older, like let's say in your later 50s, early 60s, that's when you want to take more of a conservative approach. But
yeah, like you're like from 30, you have time to recover effectively, right? Like you take a little you have a loss, and let's just say you're leveraged. I think right now, like I adjusted my 401k to have like 70% in like a like technology based ETF, and then 30% in a like I mean S&P 500, right? Just like something like that's more conservative, right? Like obviously, like I mean, how do you break down a portfolio? I mean, I know that might be a little bit more advanced to talk about, but like I'm kind of interested personally what that looks like. And again, like I guess as you're aging, like what percentages make the most sense, or what are you doing kind of right now? And I'm kind of curious.
so for me, like I have like my aggressive investments. Like I'm invested in the S&P. I have individual stocks. I'm not really invested in any bonds, to be honest with you. It just hasn't been the best bond market. Interest rates are high, and the way bonds work is when interest rates are high, the returns on the bonds are low. So if I wanted to get a bond, I might as well either get a CD through the bank. It's shorter term. I can take out that money after 6 months, 3 months, 9 months. You can always go that route. Or at that point, I just open up a high yield savings account at a bank. Or we have a high yield savings account at our firm. It's paying like 5.1%.
Ooh,
So
Yeah.
it's like, do you want to get
Yeah.
a 2 to 3% return on a bond, or do you want to go ahead and get 5.1%? You're going to get, there's always taxes and penalties with either one, but which interest rate do you want to take? Obviously, the higher one is going to get you a better
yeah.
return. So I of course do stocks. I do a little bit in crypto. No bonds. Again, just really not for me. Bonds are more for people with like millions of dollars kind of sitting on the side. That's who it's going to make the most sense for. Have a Roth 401k through work. So 401ks also have a Roth option depending on which company you're working for. I also have my pension. So not a lot of companies offer a pension. I have one.
I was
So
gonna say.
that's pretty much what I'm doing right now. And then
He's protected, man. The pension is good stuff. That's why there's loyalty to certain companies, man. People like slave over certain companies, Marcos, they'll just stay there forever.
yeah, I mean that's a big reason, and pretty much that's a big reason why people come, because they're like, oh, pension. No one really offers pensions anymore.
No.
On top of that, Ariel and I, we're gonna slowly get into investing in property as well. So getting into
Yeah.
like Airbnb arbitrage, just overall Airbnb rentals, just investing in property as well once we kind of develop the capital, and
Yeah.
using those investments, like taking out of your Roth IRA, taking out of the stocks, like selling some stocks in order to get that capital to make those investments. So, that's pretty much what I do for myself. And when clients ask me, hey, what do you do? That's pretty much what I do. Now,
Ryan, that's in your risk profile. You can handle managing real estate.
absolutely, man. I mean, look, I'm young, for now, no kids, and, might as well get it now. People say, oh, California is expensive. I'm like, it's only going to get more expensive, my friend. Trust me, it's
Yeah,
not going to
it
get
is. I
cheaper.
mean, that's the next step for Desiree and I too. Like we've been looking at places, so it's like, yeah, I totally hear you.
Yeah,
But
and
not
it's
as
like,
not as an investment vehicle, like the way you're gonna do it though. But
yeah, and it's like really my advice, and really any real estate guru. Again, real estate isn't my forte. I have realtors that I'm connected with that I go to, but most of them that I've spoken to say, hey, don't make your first property like your personal one. Use it as an investment property. And then down the line, get your personal property. So
yeah,
that's like a very generic kind of advice I've heard from different realtors. One thing I did also want to add in, Marcos, and Seamus knows this. I'm also a big proponent of, hey, it's good to have your investments and stuff, but also have some life insurance on the side. Also
Oh yeah,
have like a disability.
I forgot to mention that I have a $1 million policy, just
Good.
term. Yeah.
Good. That's
Yeah.
more than enough. To be honest
Yeah.
with you, there's different kinds of life insurance policies out there. People always have their different judgments and opinions on which one is better. The best thing I say is, look, no matter what, just make sure that you're covered. Like an easy way to kind of explain it is like a whole life policy is going to be one that you own. You own that policy. You usually pay till age 100. It's going to cost more for more death benefit. And it's a little bit more of a complex vehicle. That one can kind of throw people off. The one that I tell people is, hey, look, if you're on a budget, if you're just starting off, if you're young and you're tight on a budget, just get a term policy. It's the easiest way to make sure that, hey, you and your family are going to be protected. Because, you know, again, people say, oh, well, I have my investments. My family's going to get that. But I'm like, okay, well, what if you pass away, the market hits a downturn, and now you're negative 30%? Like, keep your investments, keep your insurance. Like, don't mix them. Like, life insurance is there to protect them. Investments are there to help you grow. Like,
and like like you mentioned, like the whole life, or I guess like what IUL or UIL or whatever it is, right? Like those, I was even looking at that, and again, like what it just does, it doesn't even seem to make sense in terms of like long-term benefit. Like he's like, yeah, you can get to this point in 20, 30 years and there's like cash out option. And then I was like, I mean, if I just pay what I'm paying now, let's just say that policy is worth $1 million at that point or whatever, when I cash it out, the amount I'm like paying into it to then have other things like leverage, it makes more sense just to take that money that I'd invest there into just, again, the average, you know, whatever, 10% yield the S&P has had over the last 50 plus years, right? Like,
and you know, that's where, again, like the whole life, and this is what I tell people, like a whole life policy, it's for very specific individuals. It's usually people who have maxed out the Roth, they've maxed out their 401k, for example. That's going to be your most conservative kind of asset in your financial portfolio. If you want to get a whole life and kind of turn it market based, you can either go the IUL route or the VUL route. So index universal life or variable universal life. Seamus knows about a VUL. He can open up about his experience. He's had some pretty good returns on it. But if you want to get a whole life and kind of turn it towards the market, Marcos, that's where, again, you can go for that variable kind of account where it is tied to the market. It's still a whole life policy, but it gives you the market, you know, kind of returns that you want. So, like, if you are going to go that route, you're younger. But again, is it for everyone? Not really.
No. And before you go, like, I also have a $1,100 expense with childcare every month too. That's like not allowing me to invest in other vehicles right now as a result of just life expenses, you know? So like there's, like you'd mentioned, like depending on where you're at, if you do or do not have kids and how much money is able to kind of like, again, be put away, you know, again, like, but yeah, like the idea is, again, like I've talked to a lot of people, you know, about this particular topic because it really interests me. And I was like, damn, I really should have figured out how to have gone to school for this, because it's like this long game. It's like teaching people patience. Again, you look like a genius when people are making money, but you also look like more of a genius, like you said, because you covered their ass, which again, people, I mean, hell, like I bought some like BS stocks on Robinhood when it came to COVID times, right? I didn't
Everyone did. Everyone was doing it.
We're just bored. Yeah. I was like, all right, let's learn how to do this. Right. I didn't put like a set limit or whatever it is, like a sell option on it after it.
So you were doing options. You were trading.
No, it wasn't even an options. I just didn't have like a spot where I would just sell after hit like dipping down. And I learned a valuable lesson of like not like having that thing set to like just whatever that is. Because it basically went from, I think I bought it at 5 and it got up to like 55, and I didn't know when to take it. I thought I'd have to hold it and pay taxes on it and all this shit. So live and learn. But
and I mean, look, like you're gonna have to pay taxes on these investments. I always say anything 12 months or longer, you're gonna have to pay that long-term capital gains tax. Anything shorter than that is gonna be short-term capital gains tax, but look, like you're going to have to pay taxes either way. You're either going to pay taxes today, you're going to pay taxes coming into your account, such as the Roth IRA, like that. Those are after-tax dollars, or you're going to have to pay them in the future. So there's no escaping Uncle Sam. You kind of just have to pick your poison. And that's, again, where like you have to be diversified. It's like 401ks are great. I love them. I have them. I love Roths. I have one myself. I have my life insurance, getting into property, all of these kinds of things. I have a high yield savings account. Like these are all things that I do because I also believe in it. So it's good to have a little bit of everything. But again, Marcos, like we all are also limited on funds. Like it's not like we all make $1 million a month and it's like raining money. Everyone kind of has a budget. So it's like, look, based on your budget, certain things will make sense, other things may not make sense. But I never believe there's like a good or bad. It's very situational. That's why when some advisors, they call out people like, oh, your plan is terrible. Come talk to me. I can do better than you. It's like, well, that comes off very kind of transactional and salesy. Plus, you're kind of undermining the good work or the hard work that person put in, and like, how do you know just based off of a 5-minute conversation if it's good or bad? But kind of going back to your question, like 10, 15 minutes ago, so far, like your approach is good. You have your 401k, you have the Roth, you have that life insurance that's protecting you and your family. Obviously, you have the childcare expenses. It's important, but as your child gets older, gets out of daycare, or just transitions, there will be more of a budget that kind of opens up. But
yeah,
I mean,
a 12 grand fucking increase to my,
yeah,
my life,
yeah,
that literally, that money right there is the funding of the Roths, basically, like,
yeah,
then, and then all other things too. I mean, again, the biggest thing, and I think like, obviously you mentioned this too, and why like I actually take so much and put it into the HSA is just like, again, that rainy day fund, and then like dealing with a higher deductible insurance plan. Like, dude,
yeah,
like I'm like, I need that for, again, these bills that are just like asinine when it comes to that. So like the fact that it can turn into that other little vehicle, or like that's like kind of the rainy day fund, if you will. Like I know that's like somebody that talks about financial literacy. It's like you should always have like this stowed away. And I was like, well, most of it's going to be, again, I can spend it primarily if I need it for that, again, that event, right?
yeah,
But I can also use it for other services that are, that do comply with the law, obviously, with like an HSA. Like technically, Seamus and I can accept HSA payment for our services in our, so, and the goods that we like to tell people to go buy. Hey, we tell people, like, not only, we're like, hey, how would you like to, basically pay for, 3 months worth of your nutrition coaching? And they look at us like we're crazy. And I was like, yeah, like you should look into this stuff. And they're like, oh, I didn't even know that. Like, I didn't
You got
even
like
know.
a
Like,
40% off, It's
yeah.
pretty cheap.
I mean, and the cool thing is, Marcos, I recently started getting into actually creating and actually pretty much doing HSA accounts. So when I first started, I wasn't really doing it, but our firm has acquired like, a certain company, and we're doing HSAs now too. So it's like there's a lot of stuff out there. Like we also acquired Cigna a couple years ago, and now I can even do long-term care. I've been doing that's more for people who are a little older, but also individual disability insurance. So because a lot of young people are like, look, maybe I need life insurance, maybe I don't. I don't think I'm going to die. But I'm like, okay, what happens if you become disabled? What's going to do to replace your income? Like that's another thing that's able to do. So, that's like another avenue to kind of look at. But again, that's where it's like, there's so much out there. You really have to see like, what is it worth to you? Like that's ultimately what it comes down to is it important to you? Does it fit your goals?
Yeah. And so my like the actual question was like, would you take that 2% from the 401k contribution and put it elsewhere at this point? Like, is it a better use of those funds?
I mean, there's a lot that you could do to it. I think the question I would ask is 2% is equivalent to how much in a dollar form? Like
That's 14. That's like 14 to 1800 a year.
14 to 1800 a year. I mean, there's a lot that you could put it in. I'm just trying to think off the top of my mind. You can contribute more to your HSA. There could be other vehicles. Like if you want to put it into individual stocks, maybe something more of a long-term play. Or if you really just want to, because again, kind of take that 5% regardless, but with the extra 2%, you could just put it into different things. Or you can put it into high yield savings account if you don't have one. It's like, look, if you just want to do 1,200 to 1,400 into a high yield savings account, let's say it's getting you on average, banks these days are pretty good. Like they're giving 4 to 4.5%. That's on average what banks are giving for savings account. we're giving like 5% to 5.1. Now, interest rates are variable, meaning that they change every day. So you can't guarantee an interest rate. They're always going to go up and down. But we acquired with a company called Max, and since inception, it's been doing 5% or above every single year. So it's
Pretty
like
good.
that's
Yeah.
pretty much what I would say is you can either put it into an individual stock, such as a company you trust, like a Tesla, Microsoft, Amazon, Apple. Basically,
I got some
companies.
companies from Marcos. I got some companies from Marcos.
Yeah, and it's like basically companies that you trust, companies that you buy from. Like, where do you get
Mhm.
your phone? From Apple or Android. Android is who? Is it Microsoft or who is it? Google?
Google.
Google?
Google.
Okay. So you can invest even in some, Google's another great company. What's Warren Buffett's company?
Berkshire
Berkshire
Hathaway.
Hathaway.
Berkshire. That's a very fancy stock, very up there in price. But again, you want to also take that money. It's like, hey, if I have $1,400, that's what I would do if I was you. Either
Yeah.
put it into a stock and look, 1,400, you can take that math and just if you really look at it over the long term, that would really pay off, pretty good dividends. Or just put it in a high yield savings account and, then it can gain you 5%, or it's gone up to
Yeah.
5.5, for our company. So, I mean, that's what I would do with that money.
Would you say, Ryan? Would you say parking it somewhere where it's liquid though, like making sure like you could get it,
Yeah, because I mean, 2% is something you could even do like a CD, certificate of deposit. Like you could park it somewhere where it gains a certain amount of interest in like a 3-month span, 6-month span, 9-month span, and then you pretty much just get that money back. Now, granted, you have to pay taxes on it, but I mean, most of these vehicles, again, as we've been talking, you're going to have to pay taxes on it regardless.
Yeah.
So I would say,
100%.
yeah, so I'd say, look, something like 2%, just keep it liquid, keep it somewhere where you have access to it, and you can do some shorter term investing. So definitely not a bad game plan. So that's what I would do personally.
Yeah, because I mean, so I have this other. I guess it's just like a joint account that like me and my wife have, and I guess it is where you can kind of keep things liquid, but then put it in like again, like more of like that type of thing, more individual stock. I guess I should probably put it in there, let it do
Right.
its thing, and it might be better than 5. It might be at 7, or just go the safe route of 5. It's just like again, like I think that's what kind of risk I want to have or figure out.
And to be honest with you, Marcos, like again, I don't know your full financial situation. We haven't sat down like I have with Seamus to like have that kind of heart to heart one-on-one with you and your wife.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, look, you're 31 years old. How old is your wife?
36. Sorry.
36. Okay, you're 31. She's 36. I mean, look, you guys can invest pretty risky right now. Again, going back to it, even though you have your son, by the way, he's 5 years old, or how old is he?
I have a 6 and a 3-year-old, so I got 2.
6 and a 3-year-old. Awesome. What are their names?
Zeke and Ari.
Zeke and Ari. So what I'm also thinking is like, okay, you could also set up like a college funding account for them. Like you could set up a 529 plan. You could put those funds in there if that's something you and your wife are like if that's something of importance to you guys. But you guys are at the age and in that point in your careers where you guys can take on that risk. You're not 70 years old, retired, like, you guys have another average retirement age of 67 these days. So you guys have another 30 to 35 years of working. If I was you, at the very least, put it in a high yield savings account. If not, put it in something where, either S&P or into some individual stock where you're going to have that risk. But I mean, you're going to have that upside of growth. If you've paid attention to the stock market the past 2 years, it's been doing really well.
Oh, yeah.
Like I always tell people, don't let the red ticker symbol scare you. Like CNN and CNBC, like they put all this stuff up. Yeah, but
I looked at the thing today. I'm like, what am I going to sell today?
Yeah, but it's like, look, like anything with stocks, there's no guarantee. Like I have friends come up to me, oh, like, what do you think is going to happen here? I'm like, look, I don't know. Like I can't predict those kinds of things, but just take an educated risk. Like with anything stock wise, I'm like, look, with any sort of investment, it's really coming down to an educated risk. Like don't put more than what you can lose. Like if you're afraid to lose, man, I know so many people who have put their life savings into crypto and just like I hear these horror stories at like parties and networking events and I'm like, geez, dude, like If only I could have spoken to you maybe 6 months prior. But
That's a major lesson to learn. That's a major lesson to learn, Ryan.
yeah, I've
I got a
got,
question for you, Ryan. You
yeah, go for it.
you dropped the 529 there.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that we talked about.
Uh-huh.
And would you mind just running that for the audience there? Because like, I mean, I'm at that prime age. Marcos has kids already, but I'm at that prime age where like that's what I was thinking about. Like when I talk to you, you're like, dude, let's have a conversation. Like, you know, you're not thinking about you in 2 weeks, right? I'm like, no, you're thinking in 2 decades. I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, you're like, get one of these. Um, tell us about that real quick.
So 529 plans, they're savings vehicles for college. So in 2024, there were some big changes where because here's the way it works. It's specifically for college. So adults can use them. They're usually meant for kids though. So parents get them, they fund them, and then they pass it on to their kids when they're 18 or when they start to go to pretty much go to school. You can use it for like elementary, middle school, high school as well. It's any form of education, but usually parents do it for college. The cool thing is now for 2024, the IRS and just like the government made some pretty big changes. Before, if your child didn't use the 529, they can't transfer it on to someone else. And here's the thing, if you use that money for any other expenses, you're going to be penalized. So it's very strict with what you can use the 529 plan contributions. It's like it needs to be towards like educational purposes. So you can't get a plane ticket for Cancun for spring break. As like, oh, this is the college
I'm
expense
getting an
for spring
education
break.
there, though. I'm getting an education on
I know.
alcohology.
Exactly. You're getting education on binge drinking and late nights and probably very poor decisions. So
Right.
that's pretty
That's a
much
bigger
what that
lesson than
is.
some of my textbooks I've ever given me, Ryan.
And
Yeah.
Ryan, quick question.
Yeah.
So what if grandparents were to create a 529 for like grandkids out of
That's
curiosity?
fine. That's fine. So here's the thing. Anyone can create the 529 plan. Worst case, and this is a question people say, is like, oh, well, what if my kid decides to be a TikTok star or YouTube and they decide not to go to college? So really cool. The grandparents or the parents, they can use those funds and they can go use it for their own like educational purposes. So if you want to go study abroad, you want to go to like Italy and go to like a culinary school to know how to make pizza. Like,
Yo, I'm gonna get my second
It's
degree,
like-
Marco. So in pizza
Yeah.
culinary school.
Wait. Okay. So you can fund it for the kid, but then you
Yeah.
could use it for your own educational benefits. Is
Yep.
there a limit to the amount of money that you can fund into this 529 per year?
I believe there's the gifting limit of like 17,500. I believe if you're doing it jointly, just take the 17,500 and multiply it by 2. It's like 32 or 34,000. And here's the really cool thing. Even if you decide as a parent not to use it for yourself, you can take that 529 plan and you can roll it over into a Roth IRA. So they just made that applicable for 2024. So before you couldn't do it, but now you can put it into a Roth IRA up to $35,000 and then you can gift that to your child now. The part that sucks is if you're maxing this thing out, let's say $34,000 a year, but you can only put 35 into like a Roth IRA, then it's like, okay, well, you spent all this money into the 529 plan. You only transfer over 35,000. What happens to the rest of the money?
What qualifies as education? Does like, again, a certification through, does that have to be a higher education credentialed thing, or could it be education as it pertains to, like, again, a business write-off education expense where I'm literally like buying other people's courses for educational purposes?
There's like all of the fine details on like the website. It's so extensive because even now with like the election being over and we're getting into 2025, there's going to be new laws and rules and regulations, especially for finance. Like it may be set to change. So off the top, like I don't know every single detail, but I can send you and Seamus like the details on like, hey, this is pretty much what it is, because there's all of those like, okay, well, I know before you couldn't really use it for like private school, like I think private high schools or something like that. There was some sort of limitation there. It's really interesting. So I can definitely send you guys some information on it because
Send me the
I'd love
PDF so I
to.
can feed it to ChatGPT and I can ask it.
Yeah, I'd love to know because it's like it's true because right now education is changing. I think education's been changing for like the last 5 years, but I definitely say it's really changed in the last few years with the lockdown, where online education that hasn't been the standard, people have been making, moves on with like online education, online platforms, and they're not necessarily strict or standardized or like a university or something like that,
Right.
but people have been utilizing these courses and things like that. I myself have learned a lot and utilized a lot of the information. So I'm wondering, like, yeah, I wonder how that looks, because some people have gotten, I feel like I've gotten better education from some courses at like compared to some of the things that we did in our degree together, right, Ryan? So
Yep.
I'm definitely one for like, which, oh, because it's from a university, that's where it goes to. But it's like, well, the university is not teaching anything that's already real life applicable, or like a mentorship or like an apprenticeship or something like that. Um, so yeah, I wonder, I hope it could probably change to something that's more like real world life as well. Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, right now, again, like the 529s and all of these things, you guys, like they're gonna start to change. Like, honestly, because education is different post COVID. Like, a lot of people, to be honest, they're opting not to go to college. They're making money off of TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. And like, education is not just, hey, let's go to Harvard and get a master's, then a PhD. Maybe back in the 80s, 90s, that was the more traditional route to go. But I mean, post COVID, those kind of hard traditions have been broken. So the 529 will continue to adapt. Like, I've listened to different podcasts and audiobooks and I've read on them. And seriously, I feel like every time I get a new update, there's something new changing about it.
Sweet.
That
Okay,
that's
so it's
that's
adaptable.
why
That's a good thing.
yeah, that's why like I don't want to give you guys any misinformation or like other people who are listening on like, hey, this is guaranteed what it says, but then like in 2 weeks they're like, oh, we made like X, Y, and Z changes. Then I'm gonna say, okay, well, now my credibility is pretty much being shot in the foot. So
That's cool, man. We're in the health coaching field every day. I
oh
don't even every day one new study debunks what I just said yesterday. So
So, all
dude.
right. Well, last question with this though. Like, so it's not a tax deduction though with contributions to 529s for people,
No.
right? But it does have the benefit that it can grow because it's invested in some sort of stock or
Yep.
ETF or bond or whatever it is. It's going to give it some sort of additional rate of return.
Yeah, I would say again, like if you're doing a 529 plan, unless you hate your child, I would not put it into a bond. Again, like if you look at where bonds have been, I know I was looking online today and people are like, oh, since Trump is president, everything is up like 1,500 points. Like bonds are going up too. And it's like, okay, that's great, but that's based off of one day. Like you're
Yeah,
not
just like
investing
the
one
election
day,
for.
you're investing 18, 20 years. Like this is a pretty long time. So I would not put it into a bond. Bonds are very conservative. Where equities or stocks, like when we have kids and when I open up a 529 plan for them, I'm going to make it pretty aggressive because I want to maximize the amount of growth they get in 18 years.
Yeah,
I don't want to jeopardize any losses. Just doesn't make sense. So if I'm a parent or any advice to parents, put it in stocks.
yeah.
That's what I would do.
So then, weird question though, right? Like, because obviously this is kind of treated in that gift limit element from people, right?
Yep.
Is the gift particular to that individual that's receiving or that has the account?
Yes.
So, okay, I'm purely asking this selfishly from my parents.
Marcus is gonna try to swing this around.
Well, because they've been asking me like, okay, what's some additional things to potentially leverage and utilize? And I was like, I don't know about a 529 for my kids. Like they want to kind of help like get it going. But they did also like, I have considered going back to school for like PA school. So it might be
Nice.
a good vehicle for them to kind of start pumping it into there right now, because then there's additional places that it can kind of grow, be gift. Like that whole thing is like then quote unquote gifted over time. But it cuts into like quote the gift. They could just give me the cash theoretically too, right? Like, so it's all lumped together effectively. So
Yeah, it's like honestly, like growing up, my dad always said, "Look, cash is king." Like as
right,
long
yeah,
as it's beating inflation, cash is king. With inflation, that really kind of changes the scenario. But you could use it for your selfish reasons, Marcos. There's no reason why you can't.
yeah.
And
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if they started the kids and it's like less aggressive, in terms of how much they contribute. And
Right.
then they're like helping me because they were like, hey, they will help you with like going back to school. So there's no like additional debt on like a loan. Like basically they're going to kind of be the bank. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I would greatly appreciate that because that's like the biggest thing that I'm kind of scared about. I was like, yeah, like the upside of making that, but then I don't even know what the interest rate is on like a student loan at this stage of the game. I mean, when my wife got it, it was dirt cheap. It was like we got her loans like 2.5%. I was like, that's practically free money. Yeah,
Yeah, that doesn't exist. I know I was in a networking group and interest rates came down to like the sixes, but then they shot back up to 7% last week. So I mean, and I'll kind of tell you, like, I got my Tesla back in December and I had the option to lease it or finance it. Dude, the finance options were like 12%. I'm like, get this out of my face. I'm not going to do 12%.
And I would tell you as someone that has financed a Tesla that you should just lease it because
I literally looked at the numbers. I didn't even have to look at it more than 3 seconds. I was like, we're going with the lease. Like, I will, like, I'll just go ahead, lease it, give it up after 3 years, and just go my merry way. Because,
dude, it's a computer. It depreciates so much faster than any other cars on the market. Like, I'm practically upside down in mine. I still owe like 32 on it, but I'm like, I'm looking if the interest rates do dip again and I can just refi and just stretch it out for however long at this point, because it's in my business's name versus like, you know, I'm like, I can write off that tax expense. Like, at least that's like a deduction. So
Marcos, really quick, I want to go back to the college savings because you just reminded me of something I wanted to mention to you. What a lot of parents also do for college savings for kids, if you own a business, you can open up a Roth IRA and put your child that works for you. Because with a Roth, the only way you can get it is if you make earned income.
Yes.
That's the only way. And earned income is basically what you receive. So you could do something like that where it's like, hey, if you have an LLC or S Corp, however you file, talk to your CPA or tax professional about how to set that up in terms of like the legal aspects of the tax system. But I would say you could do the Roth IRA or kind of like what Seamus was mentioning earlier and kind of what we talked about, maybe not a whole life policy for kids because that is going to be pretty conservative, but you could get like a VUL for them. Like it acts as we're basically leveraging the life insurance, but you're using it for market-based and returns purposes, where if you take that money out before 59 and a half, you're not going to be hit with any penalties. So in the Roth, if you touch your gains, you're going to have to pay capital gains taxes on that. You can take your principal out. You can take what you put in. But anything that you've earned in your Roth, if you take it out before 59 and a half, that's where Uncle Sam is going to 1099 you in April and basically say, hey, you gained 30,000, you took out 25, like you owe taxes on the 25,000.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to do that. So you could also go the VUL option. And if you own a business, you can also write off that VUL as well. So for any business owner parents who are out there listening to this, that's an other kind of tax advantage. And again, you're not evading taxes. This is just another loophole.
Those LLCs, baby.
So,
well, this is, I mean, today is like end of election cycle, right? Like we know who the president is at this point. And I was arguing this because in the sense of like a lot of people feel as though, again, who the president matters in a sense, right? And I was like, I think more people that are quote small business owners actually look at that and they're like, well, the way that tax structure then ends up getting set up does actually make a whole lot of difference, even if you're not making a shit ton of money with your small business, because it does kind of trickle down to you. And there is things in there that when you learn, like you just said, like I can have my son on payroll and I only got to pay him up to enough to fund his IRA, right? And I can do that. And that is not only is it a tax deduction for my business, because obviously it's an expense to your business to pay an employee, right? So that's 100% deductible. But also my kid isn't making enough money to actually even get taxed.
Yeah. And it's like
legally. I mean, but you also have to justify what exactly that scope of work is. So my 6-year-old son isn't maybe quite to the capacity. At 8-year-old, he's cleaning my house a little bit. He's running some YouTube ads and telling me if the ads are actually getting shown.
There you go.
These ads are going viral.
But in an online space, who better than a kid who's like, I'm like, what are you seeing? What are you doing? Like, go just literally try to go get ads. I want you to go to so many videos in this next 1 hour each day of the week. And that is a perfectly viable thing I would pay for because it's market research.
And that's where, again, when the IRS, because here's the thing, when you go sit down with your CPA, like you open up that IRA, the Roth IRA for your child, they're going to ask you like, hey, what are the duties that your son, daughter, child is doing? You obviously can't say, hey, they're the CEO, they're working 40 hours a week. It's like, okay, like there's no 8-year-old working 40 hours a week. Like, you know, like especially not in the US, but you could kind of justify it. And as long as their role is applicable and it makes sense, that's where you can get that Roth IRA kind of approved.
Yeah,
and
you said $7,000, right?
Yeah, so 7,000 is individual, but then if you have a joint account, it's going to be 14,000. But in your case, Marcos, since you have two kids, you do 7,000 for child 1, 7,000 for child 2. So it's 14,000 that you can deduct at the end of the year. So
I gotta make that much money first, though, Ryan. You know, that's a lot of money for us.
Yeah. I mean, hey, Marcos, you know, you and Seamus are supporting me by having me on. If there's any way I can support the biz, man, just let me know. Seamus knows that I've helped him out, and if there's any way I can help you and the family out, just shoot me a holler, dude. Anytime.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'll probably circle back with you. Like,
I'm actually gonna have to circle back on you, Ryan. Marcos here actually challenged me to do like a not a conference, but like a speaking event soon enough. So I know you're doing a lot. So the next one you're doing, you got to invite me to. I'll put a little stand and I'll do a speaking thing.
Yeah,
dude. Yeah, Marcos, go for it. You were gonna say something. Go for it, bro.
Yeah, I was just saying. So, like, let's say $7,000, 30 hours in the course of a month is what a kid would have to work for you, which is like an hour a day.
Yeah, like, and it's like it's like simple stuff. Again, basically, what you're trying to do is like you're just trying to make everything look legitimate enough to get it approved because. Like, you're not going to fool Uncle Sam if you're going to say, oh, my 6-year-old's working 40 hours a week. They're like,
no, absolutely not.
Yeah,
exactly.
No.
They're the CSO, bro, the chief sleeping officer, man. Come on.
There you go, the CSO, the chief sleeping
officer. but I mean, that's
a good one. Wow.
Yeah, and I think, again, like, it's crazy because then, like, again, because everybody always worries about that potential audit risk. I'd be like, just come meet my kids. It's like, I'm like, here, like, again, if the agent ever did comes, like, you don't think this person, this like 8-year-old, again, like I'm giving it a few more years, like doesn't have the bandwidth or the capacity to kind of handle these really simple things that I'm asking on a computer for 1 hour, you know, a couple days a week, you know?
Dude, I'll kind of tell you something scary. I'll never forget. This was 2014. I went to Europe to go visit my family in Sweden.
Okay.
And I had a cousin at that time. I think she was 1. And I was playing with her in my cousin's room. She pulled out the iPad at 1 year old and was literally clicking on the apps and knew exactly where to go.
Oh, that's my kids, dude.
This is 10 years ago when technology wasn't advanced.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, you're telling a 6-year-old and 9-year-old. I mean, bro, like I saw my 1-year-old cousin do it. I was like, I don't know how the hell you're doing this, but this is scary, but it's also super cool to see at the same time because she was just clicking on this thing like she knew it, you know? So. I mean, look, like, and what are the chances of you getting audited? It's like, dude, it's less than like 3%.
No, yeah, it's not even a worry thing but I always want to be on the up and up. Like, even this last year, like, again, like I know that technically they pushed off like the Venmo transactions, right? Like, you don't have to necessarily declare that all, but I just declared it all as income because I'm like, we better just get comfortable doing it because it's there, you know what I mean? Or what if they can go retroactively do it? You know what I mean? It wasn't even for my business, it was for my wife's business. So I'm like, hairstyle is already at a higher audit risk typically than most people. So
yeah, I mean, look, when it comes to Uncle Sam, you're not going to fool him. It's like, look, you might as well come clean because you just don't want to get in trouble and then you owe and there's a bunch of penalties and things that you have to pay. It's like, why go through that? Just say what you made and just write things off the legal way. And if you work with a good CPA, they can get you some good returns. Or if you work with a good accountant or tax professional, they can.
I always tell my CPA, Ryan, that keeps me out of jail, dude.
There you go. I mean, dude, that's all of us, bro. Like no one here likes paying taxes. Like I don't know anybody who enjoys doing taxes, but it's like, look, there's legal ways to kind of get that money back. You just have to play by the rules. That's it.
If you gotta do a job.
And
Yeah.
come to find out too, Ryan, because I only have like, I don't know, whatever, married 2 for my like dependents. The other
Right.
person that came and spoke at, again, just kind of giving some advice for investing at this conference I was at, was like, no, like literally claimed like 12 dependents. He's like, max it out. You actually want to maybe owe a little bit at the end of the year. And he's like, if you're getting a return, you really should try to like owe less so you can actually take that money, have it in your pocket, and put it into some of these accounts that are going to be better than receiving this lump sum. And I was like, well, shit, now I got to figure out how much I should rank that up to. So like I actually get to the place of like zeroed out or owing a little bit, because of having a W-2 plus then my, side business and all that. And I was like, shit, I mean, I guess if I had, I got a return last year, it was like $5,000, right?
Nice.
Nice, but like I was like, I probably would have rather had that $5,000 to like dump it right into something immediately, for the beginning of the year and have that extra year of growth. So,
that's where a lot of and that's where they say this is Roth IRA season. It's around when taxes are being paid, because it's look, if you file early enough, like in January, February, and let's say you do get a big lump sum back and you haven't really funded your IRA yet, a lot of people and their advisors, their CPA will say, hey, get this money and go fund it. Because again, you're getting this good return, you might as well just do that. So that's when IRA, like people say, oh, like it's IRA season. It's generally like February through April. So
that's a good call, actually.
Yeah.
I'm always paying a little bit more, Marcos. Now I know what to do with my. That makes sense. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So hey, that's again. So I mean, there's different strokes for different folks. Sometimes it's kind of nice being like, all right, like, shoot. I mean, I had tax credits that I couldn't even actualize because it was too much of a return. I'm like, I didn't even realize that was a thing. Thanks, like Uncle Sam. Like, I still have solar credits from when I put solar on my house 2 years ago. Like, whoops.
I was gonna say basically like that's what it is. It's like the tax system and the way you pay taxes and the returns. That's where I say like that's out of my scope of like practice, because people come to me for tax advice. They're like, oh, can you help me with this one? I'm like, look, I know how taxes work. I just can't legally give you advice. Like, then I'm just going to go beyond my scope of practice, kind of like how you guys are in surgeons and people like, oh, should I get ACL surgery? It's like, I don't know. Like we got to see what's going on first before we jump to surgery. Like, we're not just going to jump to that.
That's a super important point to point out. I mean, we have to tell a lot of people this is beyond our scope. You maybe need like a mental health professional or to see somebody else that's in there, even though we're trained in that. It's also being trained and understanding like, this goes beyond it, eating disorders and other stuff. And, again, I think people appreciate that, but they're also like, why can't you help me? You know what to do. Like,
I can't tell you what to do. Like it's like I think the hardest part, I think what we've learned in our job, Marcos, is like, I can't tell you what to do. I can give you the expertise so that you can make the decision to do the thing you need to do. I can just give you like the options.
Yeah. And, man, well, Seamus, I do apologize, man, but I think we need to wrap this up because my wife just came over frantic about something, and I would love to keep going and like push this a little bit more, but I guess Ryan will have to. We always keep on saying this. We got to get people back for part 2, and
and that's fine, guys.
I love this conversation because it's just one. It's like. It's learning. It's always learning. Also feeling like you're making some right decisions. So if people have probably heard that they're doing these things, and also too, hopefully they can seek you out if they have particular questions. Cause I think it's always good to have somebody that, like that's in a circle that's in our, like, parasocial network that we can, people can build trust with. And obviously you and Seamus go back a long way. So obviously that's a good place to start if you need some financial advice. So
Ryan, why don't we do this? Just tell people where they can find you. On social media and stuff like that, and then we'll put the show notes and everything there for us.
Yeah, so social media, you guys, you can either look me up on Facebook, just Ryan Gahavry, or just at Ryan Gahavry on Instagram. Super simple. I don't have a fancy name or anything. So Marcos, I hope everything's okay with your wife. I know she kind of came over frantically, so please keep us updated.
She just needs help filling out these tickets for our son's fundraiser. So she's like, she has to go to soccer practice, so it's not anything nothing
It's a timely
urgent.
thing.
It's just it's a timing thing. It's all.
All
Okay.
right. Well, Marcos, we appreciate you, Marcos and Ryan, and we'll stop it right here. Ryan, just stay for a little bit longer, but thank you so much, guys. Appreciate
Okay.
you, macro perspective peeps.